Well, we're joined now by the manager of the defunct Tinubu Shatima Presidential Campaign Council, Ogbule, pretty much later Arise lawyer and Arise. Okay, I can see Frank Tietie is ready. Arise analyst and lawyer Frank Tietie is also joining us. Well, good to see you both, and thanks for your time. Let's start with you, Ene. Well, we saw you earlier today. You were out there with some people of like minds who still have an idea of what this government is about. And you just heard the FCT minister saying that information is key here. Help us make sense of what you and your team have been saying that would make, or that might make the other camp, which is those who are agitating, see reasons with you.
Well, good evening, to people here in the studio. Good evening, Nigerians, and good evening to all well-meaning Nigerians. Well, like earlier introduced, my name is Ogbule. I was the manager of the defunct APC Presidential Campaign Council, and most importantly, a very patriotic Nigeria who at all times wish Nigeria the best, as a matter of fact. Wike said something that is very key. Information, they say, is power, as a matter of fact. For all that I know, and for all that I believe, the Tinubu government is out to deliver on the dividends of democracy to our people. Tinubu, as he has always been known, has been a very patriotic Nigeria who believes, first of all, in one Nigeria, number one, and who also believes that all Nigerians are entitled to good standard of living. And by so doing, he has shown himself in different ways. As the governor of Lagos State, he's been able to mentor a lot of people. He has done so much that not many of his contemporaries were able to achieve, within the 8 years that he spent in Lagos State. And it is on the basis of his track record in Lagos State that I picked interest in him, and I picked interest in his leadership capacity and ability. And that is why I was able to serve him as the manager of the Presidential Campaign Council. But it might interest you to know that at this point, I am not speaking here as the manager of the defunct Presidential Campaign Council. I am speaking here tonight in my capacity as a Nigerian who has the right to speak when things concerning Nigeria happens, particularly when it is chaotic. This government, as it were, has been able to achieve a lot in just 1 year. But beyond what has also been achieved, I'm going to enumerate in a short while from now, the government has also just spent 1 year in office, like you and I know. And the government came and met a very terrible situation on ground, which is not even peculiar to Nigeria. You will also agree with me that the whole world is in turmoil. Economic recessions that has translated into very poor investment in virtually all the sectors across the globe, occasioned by post-COVID crisis, which is yet to abate. And because there are so many problems around the world, hunger is not peculiar to Nigeria. Hunger is everywhere in the world. Inflation is not peculiar to Nigeria. Inflation is everywhere in the world. I want to tell you a story. I have a daughter who is in the university.
Very brief story.
Yes, please. Very brief story. Yeah, who is in the university in Dubai. She got into the university like 3 years ago now. By the time she got into the university, I was paying like 2,500 dirhams for her accommodation. But within the space of just 3 years, as we speak today, I am almost paying 7,000 dirham for the same hostel that I was paying 2,500 dirhams for, which means that inflation is everywhere in the world.
Right. Okay, very quickly. Frank Tietie, well, Ene here is saying, look, what's happening in Nigeria is not peculiar to the country. The global headwinds, I mean, you cannot really divorce or keep Nigeria away from, the prevailing situation globally. But I'd like to get your response to that. And, of course, your assessment of today's protest. Do you think it has met the objective?
If you imagine that someone whose daughter is schooling in Dubai is telling you that Nigeria is good, and you want to think that that is the reality, I mean, she's completely out of touch. It's not my style, never to go personal in my conversations, but I cannot hide from that. I think that is a very poor example to make. your child schooling in Dubai when we are talking about a number of Nigerians in the millions that hardly have bread to eat before they go to sleep? There is no doubt that the president has just stayed for 1 year, but in that 1 year so much has happened. It's as if the president was on a mission to increase the suffering and hardship of Nigerians foisted by the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari. But I also don't want to join the bandwagon of condemnation. So let's find a solution to the situation. And that's the reason why we take our time always to do what we are doing, to see, hoping that policymakers and implementers of government programs may get perspectives that will help them. But in Nigeria, it's different. Once there is a kind of state capture, when the people are ensconced in power, they just go deaf. They don't listen to anybody. They manage power. And the contestation, or rather the contest, the competition right now, is to outdo a previous administration in self-enrichment, in disregard for the citizens. Let me tell you. And I borrowed this from this morning's show, when Dr. Abati referred to the fact that why wouldn't the president address his people all this while? In the manner, in the example of Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, on how in addressing demands. I've followed crisis in Africa. I've studied it even at the master's degree level. And I realized that some things come too late. Yes, I don't think it is good to just go ahead and be protesting without end, without a measurable demand. If the Constitution says you've got a right to protest, the Constitution also says that there are ways of changing governments in Nigeria. So first and foremost, those who are protesting should banish it from their mind that they intend to change the regime of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that has been declared constitutionally as president. However, we can't be a country that is at war with itself. Today, the protest, to me, was largely successful, especially in the FCT where I live and where I also monitored it real time. And I also saw the Arise team doing a great job, led by Somna Sambo himself, even though he was on the background, tried to give us accurate reports. So it is true that there is not much violence, there's no violence in the protest in the FCT. But news coming from across the country indicate that there has been terrible violence. Now, don't forget that even before the date the protest was meant to start, we had started recording violence because we know, especially in northern Nigeria, people who thrive on disorder. So there's no doubt that those protesting to demonstrate that things are not good, for me, are going a great length at making sacrifices for those who are comfortable, for those who are also suffering. Because many Nigerians thrive on order. It is only where there is order that we can make progress, we can have businesses working, we can have government working. But in the case where the people are telling you, sir, and then the responses we get are a litany of the good things, the many, many good things the president has done, which don't translate to anything, there's something wrong. Now, for the president to think that after today's protest, the protesters should just stop without telling them in direct terms that giving them some measure of hope that something different and fundamental will be happening tomorrow, it's very discouraging. I hope that there is peace and order as from now on.
Well, thanks, Frank. Let me bring in Anna here again, and it has to do with information. Listening to Anna and supporters of the president and this government, they tell the people, they say that a whole lot has been done. And do you think that the government has done well by communicating these programs and achievements, as you highlighted earlier on, to the people? Time was, remind me if I'm wrong, where we had presidents who periodically briefed the nation. Isn't this the time for us to go back to that era of having the president speak to us if his appointees wouldn't do?
Well, the government is trying her best to, communicate some of the achievements to the people, as a matter of fact. But a lot more still has to be done. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, information, as it were, is power. if you can do whatever you want to do, you can achieve, make the whole achievements in the world, you can have all the brilliant policies, you can have all the achievements and everything. But once people are not informed, the only way people can even partake of such, innovation is when they have the information with regards to what is being done. The government still has a lot to do with regards to giving information to the people.
But is it really the information they need, or the actual impact of some of these policies? If, say, for example, palliatives have been, given because of the impact of the fuel subsidy removal and, of course, the floating of the naira and what have you. If people were really feeling the impact of those policies, don't you think that in itself would be self-explanatory rather than, government having to explain those policies?
You see,
and besides, how many people really can say that they have received any of these palliatives?
Well, I'm not the minister, as a matter of fact, but I can tell you that a lot of people have, been able to receive the impact of some of these palliatives that is being given across. And the truth of the matter is, everybody cannot get this palliative at the same time. These things are in stages. Some people have this year, others have the next month, and others have the next month. The problem is, even those who have gotten, most times are not satisfied with what they have. Government cannot satisfy everybody at the same time. And of course, occasioned by the recession that every country of the world is in right now, things are done little by little everywhere. And some of these people get this, some of these palliatives, and what to do with them again becomes a problem. Some people get these palliatives and they just go and waste them. Some get these palliatives and don't even know what to do with them, and so on and so forth.
So we don't play with this. I like to bring this to Frank, since it looks like NA hasn't actually dealt with what I asked. Frank, do you think the government, the president and his appointees are doing a good job of speaking to the people and having a conversation with the people? Time was, we had programs like The President Explains, President speaking to the people periodically. We suddenly stopped all of that, even when the country is in dire straits.
In straight answer to your question, the president and appointees are doing a very bad job. Now, I will do everything possible within my might to protect the authority and the person of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with respect. That is the symbol of unity of Nigeria. So I am not going to attack the president. But with the likes of people like Bayo Nanuga, this evening I was appalled at what he was posting on Twitter, that is X, depicting pictures of persons who are looting. It seems quite so without empathy. I said, look, are these the kind of people who advise our president? At this critical stage, he brings himself to the point where he's sharing pictures of people who are looting and then trying to justify how much of a failure the protest is. I said the president must be having a real bad day. And I'm not surprised. Because if former President Buhari was accused of nepotism, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appears to be doubling down on Lagos-style nepotism, where he carried his Lagos crowd that he appears to have trusted, the Onanugas and the rest of them, the Wale Eduns, to come and be running a highly diverse country like this. And that's the reason why somebody who's not doing anything but politics is able to send her daughter to school in Dubai, whereas the larger population of Nigerians, 90% of them are suffering, because you will be referring to fake figures. So please, I'll answer your question again in more direct terms. I intend to diffuse the tension. I'm here to see if we can calm things down. But for goodness sake, the president's ministers are a bunch of damn failures. I mean, look at all the numbers you call. If I were advising the president, I'd say, President, go tell the people, use your ministers as scapegoat. I've said it several times. Sack your entire cabinet. Look at your country. Look at the perception the world is having about you. And you keep having this good intention about your people, but there is clear case of failure of governance, whether you like it or not. I mean, why should it be that at the times we had in northern Nigeria, for example, that is ridden with poverty and insecurity, and then times go worse than that? And then the president is his advisors are not telling him to say anything, and the spokesmen are not communicating. They're out of touch with what is happening. Please, I really wish we don't have to be a country that is fighting against ourselves. We should be ashamed. But look at this. Somebody is telling you that we're suffering and dying, and then you sit in one place, comfortable and earning salaries, and they're telling a different story completely because you have access to government perks and privileges. No, let's come down and see we can find solution to these things. And it lies in one man. Look at all of them. We didn't elect them. We didn't elect Onanuga. We didn't elect these ministers. We elected one man and gave him authority and expect in all presumption that he acts in the best interest of Nigeria. But he cannot be everywhere. And we see all these people who are meant to communicate his programs, a bunch of damn failures. Right. I apologize for we don't have to raise the tension.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there's no better time to try to calm things down, Frank Tietie. Now, Frank's argument, alongside the argument of many people, even before this protest, before this day one, is that the government, especially the president, is not engaging enough. It's not engaging Nigerians enough to use comforting words, you know, to make them see reason why they should not lose patience. And the president's handlers are not even helping matters. Today, for example, many people think, look, this is a wasted opportunity, a lost opportunity by the president to address Nigerians and say, look, I have heard you loud and clear. Things are going to change for the better going forward, rather than allow this protest to go into day 2, day 3, and day 10. Only God knows.
Very quickly, I'm going to address one of the issues he raised about my daughter going to school in Dubai and all of that. My daughter has always been in school in Dubai even before I started politics with APC. I'm not an appointee of the government.
Yeah, some might think maybe you're privileged, that's why you don't understand the issue of hunger. I
do understand. I am a woman that has fought vigorously for the ordinary man. I have fought so many times to ensure that the lives of the ordinary men are made better by the day. But let us put that by the way. The truth of the matter is this. The president has, on different occasions, spoken to Nigerians to be patient with him. He has told the nation what his plans are. He has said, please, bear with me. I met a very terrible situation on ground. I am trying to see how I can ameliorate this situation. He has said this a countless number of times. But what you must understand is this. The people are dissatisfied. It's not their fault. There's actually hunger in the land. We agree with that. But what I'm saying is this. Whether there is hunger in the land, whether they're not getting what the people are not getting what they thought they should get, is still a question of time. And the only way that we can go about it is not through crisis.
Yeah, but don't you think it will make a lot of difference if the president himself addressed these issues frontally, directly?
Which of the issues are we talking about? Which of the issues? The protest issue or the hunger? He's addressing it. He has admitted severally. He has admitted severally that there is hunger in the land and he's doing everything within his powers to ensure that this situation is ameliorated.
Thank you for your time. We really have to go. We said that much. We'd like to thank you, Ogbule and Frank Tietie. Many thanks for coming on.